Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, Angel, Soul Image 365 here. I hope you're all having a great day. And here's the moment you've all been waiting for. I get to sit down and talk with my friend Ana Barajas. She's so amazing. Yeah, saying hi. She's saying hi. Like, she's so great. She's so beautiful and a powerhouse. So we're gonna just tell you like our journeys with femininity, and yeah, we hope that you'll be encouraged by it. So I don't know. Did you want to say anything, Anna, before I jump in, or?
Well, I'm so excited to be here on your platform. Thank you for having me, for inviting me. And just to let you all know that we've been doing some prep work behind the scenes, and it's just been so fun with Angel, and like we've like gotten to know each other more and more, and it's just like in like on a professional level, and it's just been so fun. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's great. So yeah, femininity. I just discovered it in 2019, but before that, I would say the way that like my energy was, or just like knowing about femininity, was twofold. So before all this, I grew up in a single parent home. So my mom was doing both the mother role and the father role. And through that, I learned it's like you have to do everything on your own, like no man's gonna help out, just like super self-sufficient. And it seemed like kind of daunting, but kind of like I was just like, oh well, I gotta do it on my own. Like I never even asked anybody for help because I felt like no one would help me. And then two, there was abuse that happened in my family, and because of that, I was taught, like you make sure your knees are covered, like always cross your legs, like don't wear that, don't do that. And for me, who one, I have like an eye for fashion, and two, I'm a very like free and yeah, even as a Christian woman, sensual woman, like I just love to be in flow, and I think it's okay to be sexy as a Christian woman, and there's like the right context to it. But I was not taught that, so I grew up with a lot of guilt and shame around that. But also, like I just felt like no one would ever be there for me, and that was a long journey. Like I didn't like get the 180, the twist until 2 years ago. But before I jump into like the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm gonna pass it to Anna so she can talk about her experience.
Yeah, so my experience goes back to when I was 5 years old, and so when I was five, my mom's boyfriend started to sexually abuse me and my two younger sisters. And so that caused a lot of trauma within my body, within my psyche, emotionally. And that, if you know, in psychology, they call this derealization or dissociative symptoms, where your inner self essentially disconnects from your whole self. And so that caused me to not be in touch with myself, not to really be even in touch with my own body. I couldn't even if I was feeling pain, I wasn't aware that I was feeling pain. So when I was going through that dissociative symptoms and dissociative events, these events that cause us dissociative symptoms, it just like it perpetuated these cycles that were ongoing throughout into adulthood, which caused me not to really be connected to who I am as a woman, to who I am in femininity. Um, and as we know, in the fall, when Adam and Eve sinned, it caused total depravity, which means that it touched every area of our lives, including the way that we perceive ourselves, the relationship that we have with ourselves. And so sin completely also touches on our femininity as women. It disconnects us from who we are at the core. And so that's what was essentially happening with me, right, in childhood. Um, and so my pivot moment when I finally discovered it was also about, I think, in the year 2019. Um, I don't know if your audience knows, but Angel and I have been a part of this group of women who are so powerful. And our mentors, they just are amazing people too. but they've been walking us through reconnecting to ourselves, reconnecting to our inner child, reconnecting to Jesus, and just finding healing in areas where we have trauma or areas where we have a lot of areas that need healing, correct?
Yeah.
And so through that, um, through that experience that we've been going through with Angel in this group, I have learned, that was in 2019, I learned that I was so disconnected and so disconnected from my feminine essence, that was my actual pivotal moment of realizing that I wanted to reconnect with my femininity, reconnect with my womanhood, with who I am as created as a female in Christ, right?
Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. I'm like not trying to be cheesy. It's so great to hang out with Anna. Like she's amazing. And like as she mentioned too, like we've been talking a little more the past month just planning for this. We were in this group together and I would just see her posts. They're so encouraging. She's so confident and I love that. For my pivotal point, it started in 2019. And this was just a year of like hunger for me, I guess you could say. Back in the day, like I was just rejected by this boy, and like it felt super like, it sucked. Um, but I ended up on YouTube, which I now call the University of YouTube because you can learn anything on there. But there's this lady named Monique Head, and she was just always talking about like feminine energy, or just like there are other ways to like I don't want to say get what you want, but yeah, I guess I will say like get what you want, but it doesn't always have to be from like the masculine executive energy. And before this point, I was like, again, like I gotta do it myself. I'm gonna go in. I'm also very ambitious, but like the way I went about it was very like forceful, and I really felt stressed out all the time. But what Monique had was saying was that your feminine energy will take you to where you want to go because it's returning back to the natural essence of who you are. So even as Anna was saying too, like how she felt disconnected, I did as well. I always felt like I was running away or running towards something to where I wasn't connected with myself. And there were like different ways where I thought I was being feminine or like a woman, whether it was like listening to Beyonce Flawless or whatnot, but it's still, which Beyonce, I still love you, you're great. But it still kind of had that like in your face, I'm feminine, you're gonna listen to me instead of like I'm connected to myself, I know my worth, and I'm gonna ask for what I need. And people were willing to choose into that. So it felt very relaxing to me. It felt very like I can eat, like I can ease into this, I can surrender. And through that, like I started exuding confidence, and it was because it was like me stepping out, like everything came from the core and not like the outside trying to like go somewhere else. So that's one part. And then another part too is just knowing that you can be feminine and powerful at the same time. Because like Anna, like I also grew up in the church, and you hear the stories about like, women, submit to your husband, or like, let's see, I'm thinking of another one. Like it was kind of like either or, like you can have the family or you can go to work. And there is like nothing really in between. But if you look back, there are also like great, powerful women of the Bible that are doing great things. Like I think it was Chloe in the Bible. She had a business and she was married. The Proverbs 31 woman did real estate, design, like all these things, and she was married. And so it just like stepping into my femininity showed me that there were different ways to get there. And it's a lighter load. And it's a lot easier than it was when I was more in my masculine energy. So, yeah.
I really love that you said that it's like surrender, like there's an aspect to femininity in surrender. And I completely agree with that because for myself in my journey to reconnecting with myself, to reconnecting to the essence of who Christ created me to be, I had to surrender. There was a process of surrendering there, surrendering the disbelief, surrendering wrong beliefs, surrendering fear, surrendering And when I say surrendering fear, I mean surrendering the fear of the wrong things that you have been taught, right? Like, oh, femininity is wrong or it's too sexual. I mean, there has to be as a component of sexiness and sexuality in the aspect of being feminine, because that's how God created us to be. However, we're not taught how to utilize this tool, right?
Right,
And
I
it's
hear you.
like buried under rocks, and so we don't know what to do with it because it is still there. It's just buried, right? And so in my journey with femininity, I have had to learn how to sit with sexuality in a healthy way,
Yeah,
and how to embrace it when it needs to be embraced, right? Obviously right now I'm a single woman. I have been abstinent for the last 16 years of my life. So it's appropriate to feel within yourself sexy and attractive and beautiful, but that's not all there is to femininity. There's so much more. I was just talking to Angel earlier before we began the recording, and I was telling her that the core, that the very core of femininity to me is just being at peace with myself. So being balanced. So if I have knowledge, then I balance that with love. If I have so our pastor gave a study today where he said that, you know, if you have knowledge, balance that with love. If you have freedom, balance that with responsibility. If you have confidence, balance that with cautiousness, right? And so to me, that's what the very core of being a feminine woman it represents. It's just to have balance, and that within that balance, I have peace. So peace is at the core, which produces the balance. And then, so if you're going to embrace sexuality, you have to embrace that with responsibility, with love, with being cautious, being appropriate with these things, because these are
yeah,
power God gave us.
yeah, I agree with you. And it's like just looking at the context of each situation, you know, just like your femininity and like your sensuality, it's like it's okay and in its context, you know.
Exactly.
I love that. That's really good. And like as you were speaking too, I started thinking of like tips if anybody watching like wants tips to like to connect with your femininity. One of the things is just connecting with your senses. That's even like where the word sensual like derives from. It's not just about sex, but like, you know, what do you see that makes like that's like appealing to your eye? Like for me, I love flowers. Like I love them. They look pretty, they smell pretty, they're great. They just activate all your senses, you know? What food do you like to eat? And I know like we tend to live in like a go-go society where it's like we just eat to like get our meal in. We're on the go, like we're angry when we're stuck in traffic and all these things. But if you just take the time and like you're a little intentional and you're like, okay, I'm gonna like sit and I'm gonna enjoy this ice cream. What are the flavors I taste? Is that vanilla? Is that caramel? And just really embracing it, that helps you connect to the present and to connect to yourself. Same with like your music, like what are you listening to? Be intentional about that. Like what are you pouring into your spirit? What makes you feel uplifted and happy? Because like positivity is the key. Like you want to feel good. Like feelings are important. They're not everything, but like you do want to feel at ease. And like those are some things that have helped me over like the course of these couple years. Yeah, or like one more too is like gratitude. Like when I'm stuck in traffic, like I'm thankful for the time I get to call my friends instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm in traffic, like you know. But really just flipping the script and like you're in control of your energy and your destiny around you. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that for
Exactly.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, just a couple thoughts that come to my mind also about femininity and in our, you know, in my femininity is that, um, as I'm discovering what femininity is, I see in scripture various passages and stories where the Lord actually presents himself with feminine qualities.
Mhm.
And that just goes back, it takes me back to creation, how in creation, God created male and female, right? And he called it good.
Yeah,
Being a woman and being a man, so men who are men and women who are women, it's
yeah,
good. It's good. And so having femininity is good. There's
it
nothing
is.
with how God created us. The way that he designed us is perfect. And so we just need to learn to operate within that design, with balance, I mentioned earlier. Um, yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. And as you're speaking there, we're not gonna end up piggybacking a lot, but I just thought about too, like something before I started stepping into this journey, I was like, oh man, like women are looked down on, or like, people always say like Eve is like the helpmate, like the helper, right? However, if you look up that word helper in Hebrew, it means ruach, which means rescuer. So like Adam actually needed us to step in, like men need us to like take our place, and like we're the influencers. Like sometimes I'm like talking to my boyfriend about something and he's like, wow, I never even thought of that. So it's like we have that influence, and like women, International Women's Day, I just want you to know you have so much power. Step into it and learn how to use it for good, because it's good, it's amazing, and we have a gift to play in this world. And then also like when it comes to Adam and Eve, or men and women, it's like, okay, so feminism and whatnot, like in my opinion, is not doing everything a man does. It's not like using masculine energy or like their traits to get their results, but it's using our traits and like our influence. So I challenge you to think about like what your gifts are. For me, like I know it's encouragement. I want to be everyone's cheerleader, and sometimes I feel like it's too much or whatever, but no, that's what God put in my heart, and that's what I want to amplify. So think about the things you're naturally good at and just amplify those.
I love that you're saying that, because as I sit here and I hear you say that, a story comes to my mind, an experience that I had. I was sitting in front of a gentleman and we were having a conversation, and I was there, sitting really attentively listening to the story that he was communicating to me at the time. And he just paused and said, he looked at me and he said, you have a lot of power. He said, and do you want to know what your power is? And I was like, sure. And he said, your power is to just be present, to be
Mm-hmm.
still, and just listen, to
Yeah,
listen. Because right now, in your presence and how intensely you're listening to me, I feel powerful. And so that's your power. And so
yeah,
since then, I began to really implement that more in my everyday life, more intentionally. And I realized that when I stand before people and I listen to them and I make it known that their story matters to me, that brings a lot of influence into that relationship. And
yeah,
so it's not to say that, oh, you're being quiet and you don't have a voice. No, 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 no. It's the contrary. Because you have a voice and because you have power, you can be still and present with someone and listen to their story. And your presence alone will dictate, not dictate, that's not the right word, but your presence alone will influence a
yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
Because you
I do
already have that power, you don't need to do extra work to let it be known that you have power. You just have to be
that
present. And that's
that
the
one.
femininity.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I remember one time too, I was at my cousin's house and he like just broke up with his girlfriend or something. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I wish there was something I could do. And he was like, you just being here. So, like, ladies as well, like, I'm gonna say what Anna just said to reiterate, like, sometimes you don't have to overdo things. It doesn't always have to be so task oriented. like you just being there is enough.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I don't know about this, but someone said this in one of our coaching calls with our coaches. Um, they said children assume that presence is power. Children assume that presence is power. So presence in itself is power. Power.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
I love that. That's
Once you
powerful.
learn to be present, you're taking a step in the right direction. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
Amen to that, sisters.
amen. Yes, yes. So, women, we just want you to walk away feeling powerful. We just want you to feel uplifted. And um, for our content, like any of my stuff is Soul Image 365. We'll put it in the description. And then, Ana, did you want to let people know how they can connect with you?
Yes, so I will put it in her description to how to get a hold of me. I do have a YouTube channel. It's just Ana Delia Barajas. We'll spell it out in her
Yeah.
description. And with I'm also on TikTok and on IG. We'll put it all down there for you to see it because I can't remember it right now.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, we thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. All right, Soul Image 365 and Ana. Yay!
Peace.